What do you do when a single whistle changes the geography of a game? Not the final score, but the memory of it. 10 seconds left in the half, the Ravens backed into Vikings territory, and then a sack happens. It looks clean on first watch. Lamar Jackson goes down, the ball pops free in the scramble of a tackle, and the clock is about to make the decision for everyone. Instead, the flag flies, roughing the passer, half the distance to the goal. A 53-yard field goal becomes a 30-yarder. The kick is good. The headline is not the score at the moment the whistle blew. It's the question that follows, was that really roughing? dau.sports.yahoo.com. Let's start up close because the only honest way to tell this story is to look at the small things. Dallas Turner, a young linebacker playing hard and playing fast, met Lamar in the pocket. It was a full-body takedown, the kind of play defenders have practiced since Pop Warner. Leverage, drive, finish. Turner's body ended on top of Jackson. The referees judged that finish to be the issue. The rulebook these days is explicit. Landing with full body weight on a quarterback can draw a flag. By the letter of the law, that's what happened. By the spirit of the moment, that's where the argument lives. SI. Which is why the moment exploded into debate. On live television during the break, Michael Strahan Hall of Famer, former pass rusher, and now a broadcaster, didn't mince words. That was a bad call, he said. And then he did something rare for a network halftime. He argued not about gamesmanship, but about the practical reality of tackling in the modern NFL. If you're in the flow of a game and you try to make a tackle without finishing it, Strahan's point went, you might end up flagging yourself more than helping your team. He asked the awkward question everyone's thinking. If defenders are punished for finishing tackles, how are they supposed to play? Awful announcing. Let's be clear. There are two honest answers to that question, and both are uncomfortable. The first is legalistic. The rule exists because quarterbacks are vulnerable and elite quarterbacks are franchises for which teams and the league feel a custodial responsibility. The other answer is cultural. Football is a collision sport, and every time the league tightens what was once routine, the game's texture changes. Fans notice, players notice, coaches adjust. The result is a slow drift toward a sport that must thread a needle between protecting performers and preserving contact as the defining element of the game. That tension bursts to the surface anytime a call like this happens, SI. But there's also the immediacy of competitive consequence. You can argue about philosophy all day, but in that moment on the field, the call inserted 3 almost certain points onto the scoreboard. Those aren't just numbers. They are clock management decisions, halftime strategies, and the psychological tilt of a locker room as it walks into the break. The Vikings lost yards, momentum, and, for many viewers, a sense of fairness. The Ravens got a chip shot and went into halftime within a point. The next half unfolded with that little tilt in the air, and when the final whistle blew, the Ravens were up 27-19. The game didn't hinge solely on that flag, but the arc of tension that flag created lasted the whole afternoon. Fox 9 Minneapolis-St. Paul. There's a useful way to think about decisions like this. They live in 3 frames. Frame 1 is the camera's angle, what the replay shows when you freeze it. Frame 2 is the rules text, the clause that says a defender who lands with full weight on a passer is guilty of roughing. Frame 3 is the human reality, a tackler's split-second motor pattern, the quarterback's silhouette collapsing, the instinct to finish the tackle. The hard part is that all 3 are true at once. A replay can show an apparent clean hit, the rulebook can point to an infraction, and the human reality can still feel like a collision we once accepted as part of the game. That paradox is what fuels the outrage and the defense of the call in equal measure. SI. What makes moments like this combustible is the presence of reputational stakes. Lamar Jackson isn't a random backup. He's a central figure of a franchise. The league has a long history of adjusting rules to protect its marquee players and to preserve the product they help sell. Coaches will tell you that's pragmatic. The union will say it's safety first. Fans will split down the middle. But when a raw physical play becomes a rulebook example instead of a game moment, we start to argue about whether the rule exists to protect the player or to alter the way the game is played. Both are true, and both are worthy of frustration. As I now zoom out, what does this mean for defenses and for football culture? You get two practical consequences. One, defenders now have to micromanage their biomechanics. They must think about hip angles, where shoulders land, whether a tackle uses forearm or full chest. In the middle of a collapsing pocket, when decisions are halves of seconds, that's a technical ask bordering on impossible. Two, offenses adapt. When defenses ease off the finish, quarterbacks get cleaner exit routes, more seconds, and fewer jarring hits. The algebra of advantage shifts. The question then becomes whether the league is willing to trade roughness for longevity and where fans place their preference on that scale. Awful announcing. There's also a drama that doesn't make the stat sheet. Players feel rules like weather. A young linebacker who is penalized for finishing a play must field the replay, the tweets, the coach's critique, and the private conversation with a teammate whose job is also on the line. It changes how they practice. It changes how they play the next snap. And in a season, those micro adjustments add up. You can see a defense morph from feral to cautious, from aggressive to surgical, and sometimes you can point back to a moment, a whistle, a call, and trace a line from that instant to a loss of edge months later. That's a slow, invisible cost test. But let's not be simplistic. The rule didn't appear out of malice. Medical science and cumulative concussion awareness have pushed leagues into policies that, for many, are overdue. Protecting players who get hit in vulnerable positions, stepping boots, airbags, necks, is an ethical impulse. The tension is not between safety and cruelty. It's about calibrating enforcement so the game retains its competitive soul while honoring human life. The trick is not to abandon one for the other in a single whistle. At the end of the day, the public reaction to this play is as much a mirror as it is criticism. When Michael Strahan, who once did the tackling, says it's impossible in the flow of the game to remove weight, he's not asking for chaos. He's asking for compassion for the sport's artisans, the men who do the dirty work. The NFL will continue to change. It always has. Every new interpretation breeds one more highlight and one more ancient gripe. The flag on Turner's chest will be rehashed in bars, podcasts, and front offices until the league decides whether to tweak language or stand firm. Awful announcing. So how should we watch this one 5 years from now? As a bad call that decided nothing but everything, or as a teachable moment where rules, health, and the sport's identity collided in prime time? Probably both. The cleaner memory is this. Football is a living game, and living things change when you touch them. The whistle that night did more than move a ball 10 yards. It moved a conversation that will shape how the next generation of defenders train, how referees judge in the split second, and how viewers understand the balance between spectacle and safety. Final image. Imagine Dallas Turner years from now teaching a kid how to tackle, hips, head up, let the body finish, and pausing to tell the child the one sentence that matters in any sport. You'll get called for doing your job sometimes. The point is to keep doing it the right way. That's a quiet way to love a violent game.